Welcome to Sarpy Outlook. I'm O'Dea Lippert. Our guest is Vic Covalt. Vic is a private practice attorney in Lincoln. He's the past president of the Nebraska Democratic Party and a grassroots populist. Welcome, Vic.
Thanks for having me up.
I'm really glad that you're able to be with us. Our issue-based discussion today is twofold. Wearing your attorney hat, we would like to review a review of the Nebraska election law, and secondly, from your populist political hat, and as past chair of the Nebraska Democratic Party, what we as Democrats in this nearly red state can do to make a difference. So let's start with the Nebraska statute on elections. Review it, if you will, some key points and its application.
Well, you know, Peg, elections are how we change power. And if we don't have an election system that people believe is fair and impartial, then we lose the support of the people as to the change of power. And if you look at some other countries such as Libya, Syria, and Egypt, you find out what happens when the laws do not apply fairly and equally. In our state, our laws are about trying to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to participate, to cast a ballot, and that ballot is counted through a process. We have a lot of elections, and we have a lot of political subdivisions that we elect officers for, and those elections generally are every other year in the even years, although in both Omaha and Lincoln we have mayoral or city council elections on odd years too, and then we'll have the occasional bond issue or some other kind, but they're all run by election commissioners or the county clerks. The larger counties have a separate officer called an election commissioner. The county clerks run it and the rest of it. And it's their job to have the ballots printed accurately, to have them distributed, to have poll workers there to take your votes on the day of the election, and to count them accurately, and they're mostly in charge of the election. Now, of course, the candidates have opportunities to communicate before that so they can so people can make an intelligent vote, but the election laws are really about trying to make sure that that vote is counted very carefully. And in Nebraska, if you're a U.S. citizen, you're a resident of this state, and your felony is at least 2 years old, I shouldn't say it that way, but you're even if you're more than 2 years, you're eligible to vote, and you should use that right. One of the most disappointing things I see is that in 2012, in a presidential election year, we had about 70% of the people exercise their right to vote. The downside of that, there's 30% of them that didn't. And that isn't that there's about 15 to 20% of our population that are eligible to vote that are not even registered to vote. So they're outside of that system. It gets worse if you look in the off years, because in 2010, we had about 42% turnout, which again means by definition the minority rules. And so it's only if people will participate, go to the polls, cast their ballot. There's also an opportunity to cast your ballot early, and or in absentee ballots, it used to be called, because you used to have a good excuse,
reason, yes,
and you don't need an excuse.
And that's growing in popularity, I understand too.
In the Lincoln's election, the last one conducted, about 28% of the vote was cast by absentee ballot. So 10,000. Yeah, well, it's all one process. If you want a ballot, you can contact the election commissioner. Once you contact them, they have to send it to you. You have to turn it in so it's timely counted. You have to get it there the Friday before the election to be counted. But out of the there's about 37,000 votes cast in the Lincoln election in May, and almost 11,000 of those were cast by the absentee ballot. Plus, in Lancaster County, they maintain a permanent list. Once you've done it that way, you are reminded with a postcard that you can vote that way. Now, a lot of people get confused, but you have to re-register if you move.
Oh, I'm
That's
glad
one of
you
the
brought
big
that up,
problems.
Vic, because I've had people tell me, well, I cannot vote because I didn't register. I said, you don't need to, some people think, and that's an educational piece, that you need to register every time you vote, which of course is not true. You only need to re-register if you move.
Right. If you've changed your location, you have to go register. Many years ago, when I was just right out of law school, I moved from about 3 blocks. And when I got to the polling place, I hadn't re-registered, and they challenged me because I gave them the wrong address. But I stood there and insisted on casting what's known as a provisional ballot.
Good.
And a provisional ballot is a way of saying, you've told me I can't vote, I'm going to vote anyway. And because I had only moved within my precinct, actually had moved about 2.5 blocks, my vote did ultimately count. But that's when I found out about the provisional ballot problem. And the answer is, if someone denies you the right to vote at your polling location, cast your ballot anyway.
And that applies within the county. I understand you can do a provisional within the county.
Yep,
Not just within the precinct, but within your county.
I think that is correct. I never researched it that far, but I think you're right on that. The poll workers are there. They're generally paid. They have the obligation to facilitate your vote. They're trained in these kind of things. And so if you've got a problem, just take it. I know both political parties have standby crews that will answer questions. So if you really run into a problem with casting your vote, if you're a Democrat or Republican, call one of the parties because they're there to help, and their phones are freely available. So,
well, thank you, Vic. I wonder if you also would talk about some of the potential laws that may be in the hopper. Things to come, perhaps.
Yeah, in the legislature, this is coming up next year. There's 2 interim studies of importance. One of them for election laws is to look at the issue of mail-in ballots in rural counties. It's a matter that Secretary of State Gale talked about. Currently, there's a law that says if you in a county of less than 10,000 people, you can cause some or all of the precincts to be voted by mail entirely and eliminate a polling place. Several counties are doing that. Russ Karpachek has a new bill up to expand that to 20,000. They talk about when it becomes cost effective and cost ineffective because of the price of postage.
I wondered about that.
And I have a real problem with it because the rural communities tend to be much more Republican. The urban communities tend to be much more Democrat. And I guess that until they can address the fact that you're making it harder for urban people to vote than rural people to vote, I've got to oppose those because I want everyone to have equal access to the ballot. And it's a problem when we're making it very easy for the rural and suburban folks to vote Republican, and we are discriminating against the urban folks that have to go to a poll on a particular day or take initiative. So it's a problem that I don't understand. When the rest of the world is moving past mail, why is the election world just catching up to mail? I'm not against advancing means of voting. I want everybody to participate in voting, but I don't want ideas that are just thinly veiled partisan moves to grab power will defeat our confidence in that election.
That's interesting.
So, the other thing that's up is, of course, Charlie Jansen would like to have a winner-take-all, which would basically cost us the $8 or $9 million that was spent by Obama in 2008 for his vote there. Makes us a very unique state. That divided electoral vote is a very good thing. Charlie Jansen's also trying to make it harder to people to vote by a voter ID bill, which will discourage people from voting. Both of those are still alive in the legislature. There's also an interim study of the government committee on political parties and how they interface with elections that Bill Avery's conducting this summer. And that really goes to the timing of our party process as compared to the national parties, which are trying to change their timing on how they do things. It's really a problem for both parties, frankly. So those are things that are in a lot popular right now that's going to make a difference in the future.
What success do you think any of those bills will have, or the studies that are currently going on? What success might they have?
Well, I think that we will see the state deregulate the political parties and get rid of some regulations that there really isn't any good reason for, such as having county delegates being a part of the ballot process in the primary.
That's kinda
No
silly,
reason
yes,
to do that. Dictating when the county conventions are held. Once again, that's one that causes us problems of matching up with what the national parties want us to do. So I think that because we have cooperation of both parties as well as the Secretary of State, I think there will be some positive change out of that. The issue on the mail-in ballot is very deep and will go quite a ways. Particularly the ACLU has spoken fairly loudly about equal access to the ballot. Also, there was a bill last year by Paul Shoemaker that was trying to make sure that the ballot remains secretive by requiring an inner sleeve secret envelope inside the identified envelope, so your vote will truly be secret. And that one didn't get out of committee. So those are some problems with the mail-in ballots that we may not see much of an expansion on that. So,
Well, and we can only hope that the voter ID meets its end.
well, it's a solution in search of a problem.
Exactly.
There is no
Because
problem.
I know.
I have trouble getting people that are registered
Yeah,
to
yeah.
vote. It's impossible for me to think that people are trying to cheat to vote.
And Nebraska
Or-
has no record of false voting.
Haven't found one yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Haven't found one yet. But
Well, let's move on, Vic. And if you would switch hats and put on your old hat as the state chair and your populist hat, and tell us both individually and as county parties what we can do to do a better job, I guess I'd have to say, because we do some things, to register voters, to get out the vote, and begin to regain some of the ground we've lost in this state and win elections once again.
it's don't do what I did. Don't start and take over the whole state and try to work from that end.
Okay.
One of the things is that people set out to do well, and then they take on too much. They get discouraged, and then they quit. My personal quest is to be the precinct captain for my precinct. I have a precinct that depends on whose numbers you believe are from 870 to 960 registered voters, about 450 total houses. And as unappointed or unofficial precinct captain, I get lists of the Democrats that are in that and the Republicans as well as the nonpartisans. And I just feel a duty-bound obligation to knock on their doors, to get to know my neighbors, to have a meaningful conversation if they wish, to help introduce them to candidates. And I see a remarkable effect by doing so. I've been doing it for many years. My precinct got reallocated, and I got a whole new bunch of people. But I've made good friends and a lot of acquaintances out of it. And for the city election, I knocked 220 doors in my precinct. Very handleable. Took about 4 to 6 hours, I guess. Talked to a lot of people, and what I saw was in a turnout that the turnout in the city of Lincoln was 22%. My precinct had a turnout of almost 37%.
That's remarkable.
And in a precinct that's 34% Democrat, our city council raised, and if you combined them all, we lost 51.3 to 48.6.
Oh, wow.
So it was like I could see both in turnout and in the result of the turnout that it was the Democrats that turned out, and that's because it doesn't hurt to step on the doorstep and knock the door. Now you get the list from the county parties, you get the list from the state parties. They can help you all you want, but if we had a system where everybody just took ownership of their neighborhood and got together with their friends in their neighborhood. Dan Marvin and I used to split up our precinct. Now he moved on, so Roger Eshelman is helping me now, and so you make a little tiny agreement that you both take over your little area and be in charge and responsible. And the good news is you make friends doing it. It's amazing. Met a retired political science fellow that was blind, and his wife had passed on, and he didn't ever ride to the poll anymore. So I went back and gave him a ride. And very intelligent man, very good conversation. So the benefits are there. It's easy to do, and don't take on too much. Take on a little. There's a lot of people out there that wear themselves out trying to conquer the world. Just take over your neighborhood. That's really the key.
Do you live in a Democratic-friendly neighborhood?
Oh, no.
Oh, you don't. We always think of Lincoln as the panacea for Democratic.
I kind of live on a higher end block,
Oh,
but the reality is most people, by the time they voted twice, will never change their election registration. But what's fun to take is go out with candidates, because you get to knock on every door. And when you're with a candidate knocking on every door, you soon learn that there's not a lot of difference between us. We're not evil. They're not evil. What we are people that are trying to find the right way to get the right things done. And from that point of view, it's very, very good for your soul to get out and meet your neighbors and understand that we're all kind of alike.
Yes,
And
we
ought to
have
stick
more in
together.
common than we
That we have disagreements on.
Yes.
So.
Well, I know that you are the ultimate populist and do the right thing. So in wrapping up, any other wisdoms you want to share with us?
You know, it takes two things to make democracy work. It takes good candidates willing to serve, and it takes some means to get them known by the public. Whether it's money or volunteering time or both, you can be a part of the system, and they need your help. So don't sit on the sidelines. Get out there and get to know people. The best thing is, man, do I know people. And that's been the fun part of being in politics.
Certainly. Well, I want to thank you, Vic, for your ongoing leadership. And you certainly are the ultimate cheerleader for all things Democratic, and I thank you for being with us.
I do my best. Thank you, Peg. Appreciate it.
Good.